In March of 1989, the Exxon Valdez struck a reef and poured millions of gallons of crude oil into the Prince William Sound. Do you remember what you heard almost immediately about this disaster? It was the captain of the ship's fault, right? Joseph Hazelwood was the captain and he was drunk when the ship ran aground, right? To this day, most people blame this disaster on Joseph Hazelwood. Did you know he was off duty at the time and was not drunk? Was Hazelwood an alcoholic? Yes. But was his alcoholism the reason the Valdez ran aground? Or was it because Exxon made some disastrous decisions in order to skip costs on safety? In previous years, the Valdez had received the Exxon Fleet Safety Award, but by March 1989, the tanker's collision avoidance system had not been operating in over a year. So can this disaster be attributed to an alcoholic captain who was not on duty, or to the absence of the collision avoidance system? This is what Exxon did after the disaster. They blamed Hazelwood immediately. In order to deflect wrongful conduct, they pretended not to know about Hazelwood's alcoholism, but it came out in court that they did know about it. They hoped that the results of the shipwreck had been exaggerated. They were slow and ineffectual in dealing with the spill. During the cleanup, they did not supply the workers with the necessary breathing masks to prevent them from inhaling toxic fumes. Much of their effort went to merely creating the appearance of an effective cleanup, as illustrated in this part of a transcript of an Exxon official caught on tape. I don't care so much whether it is working or not, but it needs to be something out there that looks like an effort is being made. I don't care if it picks up 2 gallons a week. Get that out there and standing around where people can see it. This is just one example of how the majority of people in business today, when confronted with poor performance or unsatisfactory results, formulate excuses, rationalizations, and arguments about why they cannot be held accountable for the problem. In other words, they choose to follow the victim decision-making path rather than the accountable decision-making path. There is a thin line that separates success from failure and the great companies from the ordinary ones. Let's illustrate the line. Here's the line. Below the line lies excuse-making, blaming others, confusion, an attitude of helplessness, and ultimately failure. Above the line lies a sense of reality, ownership, commitment, solutions to problems, determined actions, and ultimately success. These are the symptoms of operating as victims. 1. Ignore, deny. People pretend not to know about a problem or deny the problem altogether. Why is this so dangerous? Well, you can't solve a problem if you don't know it exists. 2. It's not my job. We've all heard this one. Finger pointing. People seek to shift the blame to others. 4. Confusion. Tell me what to do. This is subtle. People use confusion as an excuse to relieve themselves of their accountability. What you can't understand, you can't do anything about, right? You know these people. There's a heavy sigh, then they say, just tell me exactly what you want me to do and I'll do it. These people act like they are willing to do anything, but in reality they are shifting their accountability to a superior or even another team member. 5. Covering your tail. People will concoct elaborate stories about why they cannot possibly be held accountable. These stories are generally devised after the fact, but they can also be created just in case a problem occurs. Wait and see. People wait and see if things will get better, but they rarely do. They only get worse. You can't go forward because you are stuck in a swamp of inaction. When most people think about the term accountability, a picture forms, something like an ultimate menacing being pointing a finger at us and bellowing, "And you're accountable for it." Let's replace this image with a new one. To do that, we need to ask different questions. We have to substitute questions that begin with why, when, or who, like why don't others work harder, or who missed the deadline, with questions that begin with what and how, and that include an I. Questions like, how can I do my job better today, or this one? What else can I do to rise above my circumstances and achieve the results that I desire? So what about joint accountability? Accountability works best when people share ownership for circumstances and results. Assigning responsibility to only one person or one group may comfort the majority, but the fact remains that organizational results come from collective, not individual activity. When an organization fails to perform well, it is a collective or shared failure. Each defensive player assumes responsibility for covering an area of the field. Are there hard and fast rules about where one player's area ends and another's begins? Players are always trained to go for the ball whenever they can reach it, even when more than one player can do so. Joint accountability governs play. How do you achieve joint accountability? You need to foster an environment where people don't fear accountability. You need to foster a teaching and coaching environment. In this environment, people are far more likely to admit their mistakes because they know the team will help them solve the problems. Learning replaces punishment, success replaces failure, and victimization gives way to accountability. So how do we get above the line and out of the victim cycle? You must climb the accountability steps. First, you must see the reality of the situation. Second, you have to own your part in that reality. Third, you have to solve it. You have to find a way to change the reality. Fourth, you have to do it. You have to follow through with the solutions even if it entails a lot of risk. See it. The first step on the above-the-line accountability stairs, mustering the courage to see it. In a popular book about accountability, The Oz Principle, the author brings home these steps by using characters from The Wizard of Oz. It's an interesting read, so I thought I would include the pictures here. To see it, you must recognize the reality of your situation, no matter how unpleasant or unfair that reality may seem. Without such acknowledgement, you may never expect to respond to it effectively. Seeing it. I am accountable by obtaining the perspective of others, being open and candid in my communications, asking for and offering feedback, and hearing the hard things. A big part of seeing it is feedback. Without feedback from others, a lot of us operate with blinders on. It's often hard to hear about our weaknesses or failures, but if we don't, we can never go to the next step. And it's not just receiving feedback, it's giving feedback too. I think everybody's familiar with the story of the Emperor's New Clothes. Accountable people constantly seek feedback from a wide range of associates. Own it. The second step on the above-the-line accountability stairs is finding the heart to own it. You must find the heart to tell both sides of the story, linking what you have done or failed to do with your current circumstances. Owning it. I am accountable by being personally invested, acknowledging my involvement, creating and maintaining a sense of alignment, owning both my personal and my team's objectives. I think the own it step pertains especially to joint accountability. When everyone buys into the problem or situation and treats it as their own, results always improve. Having the heart to own it means that once you see the ball has been dropped, you run in and do everything you can to get the ball into play again. Our self-directed team had our own own it moment. Originally there were 5 of us, and the person who is not here was very insistent that we include one of the topics on our agenda today. And she said she would be responsible for doing the research discussing this project. When we finally saw that she was not going to continue in our endeavor here, I'm proud to say that we didn't give up or even contemplate cutting any part of this presentation. We shifted things around a bit, and ultimately the 4 of us owned the situation and addressed it. Solve it. The third step on the above-the-line accountability stairs is to obtain the wisdom to solve it. No more prizes for predicting rain, only prizes for building arcs. You have to diligently search for the answers to problems. They rarely reveal themselves. Solving it. I am accountable by asking, what else can I do? By actively redefining boundaries, by creatively dealing with obstacles, and by staying focused on the results. The solve it attitude and behavior stems from continually asking the question, what else can I do to rise above my circumstances and achieve the results I want? If you constantly ask this question, it will help you to avoid sliding back into the victim cycle when certain events occur that seem to block the road to results. What Tin Man skills will help you move from see it and own it to solve it? 1, stay engaged. 2, be persistent. 3, use a new paradigm. The same thinking that got you into the problem won't get you out. 4, create new linkages. The solution to your problem might lie in making new relationships. 5, take the initiative. Explore. Search and question. 6, stay conscious. Overcome operating in an autopilot mode. Do it. The fourth step on the above-the-line accountability stairs, just do it. You must embrace your full responsibility for results and remain answerable for your progress in obtaining these results, regardless of how or why you managed to get into your current situation. Doing it. I am accountable by reporting proactively, by following up, by doing the things I say I'll do, and by measuring my progress toward achieving the intended goals. As the commercial says, just do it. How come it's so hard to do it? Because we fear failure, but every successful person will tell you that they learned something from every failure. Success stories without some failures along the way are hard to find. Climbing these steps in any organization requires a change in culture. But what if an organization successfully does change? Let's compare the characteristics of how accountability may have looked before the change to how it might look after the change.